the struggles of a CTO or even a meme coin, I think, this is my first time leading a project. I've certainly been a part of different teams in the past, but I think, from a project perspective, we voiced our opinions every week for the past month about, sort of I wouldn't say the downfalls, but I would say the shortcomings of the Tron ecosystem as a whole when it comes to the development of applications, really like centered around bringing in liquidity and traders onto Tron. I think, as a project who is continuously building and working on partnerships and trying to create that bridge when there isn't one. I think, it's frustrating, right? You see a lot of these projects on Solana and Ethereum get a wide array of attention and a lot of volume. And I think, from a project perspective, we all believe, all of us up here, we believe that Tron has a future, and obviously that time will come, right? It's more of a when versus if. But I think, sort of as a project as a whole, I think, remaining patient, I think is really difficult, right? You can certainly, play the, casino of meme coins on Solana and Ethereum. But I think, as a builder who is showing up every day, I think, there are, frustrations around the lack of attention for Tron memes. I think speaking personally, for myself, I've been a full-time trader for the past 2 years. I've worked, like I mentioned, with various teams, and I think one thing uh, that has been really different with leading a project is when you're a solo investor, when you're a trader, your output is essentially what you'll get back, right? Like how much work you put in, it'll come back in return, right? You know that if you're working a trade, you can set your stop losses, you can calculate your profits. Everything is based on what you do, right? There are no external factors. There are no, other people that you have to pay attention to. There are no teams. There are no copycat coins. I'll get into that later. There's nothing that's going to try to take you down besides yourself. So it's a very much you versus you battle. But I think with running a project, I've noticed that it doesn't matter how much work you put in if the environment and the ecosystem isn't ready, right? And certainly we've all been here for the past couple months. We've put in the work, but we know that Tron isn't really there yet. We'll see what sort of catalyst pushes, Tron memes forward. But at the moment, no matter how much work you put in, no matter the partnerships, no matter the announcements, no matter the development that you're putting into the project, it's not going to really have that retention value as of now, right? And I think, that's sort of a mixture of personal frustrations as well as the project, because I know not only for myself, but everyone else who is working for T-Bull have put in the work day and night. And sometimes that doesn't come to fruition, right? Like you don't get the massive influx of volume after a huge announcement, right? So I think, you know, at the core of it, I think really just staying patient has been difficult, knowing that there are a lot of things out of our control, right? And I think with that being said, it's really sort of a tunnel vision of, hey, like continue to put in the work, continue to sort of remain steadfast on the fact that Tron memes will have its moment. It's just a matter of when. And I think for myself, it's sort of reminding myself, but also making sure that everyone else who's working with the team, and everyone else who is a part of the community showing up every day, making sure that they're aware of that as well, to sort of, keep everything calm until that moment happens. So I think, you know, I'm sure all of these projects, I'm sure Sunken Zappa, you guys certainly, feel that as well, where Tron will have its moment. But I think as of now, the key is really just staying patient and trying to get out of that mental headspace and, having that long term vision.
Yeah, Zeppo, I'm sorry to jump in one last time. Also been really challenging, 1000% agree, sorry, with JS there. As a CTO, not having a marketing wallet, I mean, that is just completely, yeah, it's demoralizing, when like an exchange comes to you and you work out a pretty affordable deal, and our previous lead made off with probably 30 to $50,000. Just like thinking, man, if we had that capital right now, the stuff that we'd be doing, it would just look totally different. But anyway, sorry, I just couldn't help myself to jump in again.
Like jump in when you like, John. I think you guys have made really good points, right? And for me personally, there's a lot of different things I can talk about in terms of what the challenges are. But I think when you break it down and start seeing some of the bits that have happened, right? And I remember in our early days, in the literally the first 2 days or 3 days of inception, when we were probably getting our first wave, a few of our big holders and few of our holders, they end up connecting their wallets to another project, and then the wallets got drained. And I remember I was not in the country at the time. I was on holiday, so I was sleeping, and then I woke up in the morning and I've got a million different messages where our market cap's basically gone through the floor. And within a few hours it recovered again. Why? Because initially everyone thought we came and just rugged everyone, which wasn't the case. And it was good for us at the time because it happened really early on. So it was a big challenge for us to see, right, okay, this has happened now. How do we avoid this moving forward? And we learned a lot from that experience. And I think now moving forward, one of the most difficult thing or the challenging thing for us as a project is two things, right? Number one, it's getting everyone to understand some of the things we understand because of our experience within this space. And Jess, you've mentioned some of these things, right? Which is you got to time things perfectly. And John, you just mentioned about uh, having a wallet and the budget to try and go on these exchanges. The other thing, maybe a lot of people don't know, it does take a lot of money and a lot of conversations to get listed on exchanges. And I remember I was in my early days, probably going back 2 or 3 years. I remember being part of projects where these community-based projects were raising money from the communities to go on exchanges and all that kind of stuff. And then before you know it, actually it turns out that money's gone somewhere else. So we don't want to get in a position where we're trying to raise money from other places, right? Why? Because we got believers, we got backers, and we're doing everything we can to time things perfectly. But getting everyone else to understand that is very difficult. Hence, we're doing these sort of spaces now. I think the other part, which becomes quite challenging, is as soon as something happens in the marketplace, there's obviously a bit of FUD, a bit of panic, and it kind of leads into all projects, regardless of what kind of project you are. And then you have to do a bit of damage limitation, right? And try and get a lot of people who might not be that convicted to understand what's happening. And that's quite challenging for us. And generically speaking, the space is challenging from a personal perspective as well. And I think on a personal level, it's it's difficult sometimes because when you go on to a lot of spaces and listen to a lot of other projects, you see obviously the 100 degen behavior where everything's great, it's going to the moon, blah, blah, blah. And when we sit here within the Tron ecosystem, we're well aware that it's going to have its turn. Why? Because all the signs are there. And the big thing in this space is you have to be early, and we firmly believe that we're early, but getting everyone else to understand that sometimes can be difficult. But what we're trying to do with these spaces is be very realistic in terms of how and why that would happen, as opposed to having a degen behavior of coming on and just saying, yeah, we're going to be a billion, we're going to be 10 billion, whatever it might be, because it doesn't give you the real understanding of everything that happens in the background for it to happen. Uh, Hence why that's quite difficult. And I think the other part is, look, I've obviously mentioned at the start of this call, I've been quite unwell this week. This is the first conversation I've had with anyone this week. But the reason we've turned up and doing this space because it's about conviction. It's not just about me. It's about the community also that believes in us. So it's no point, and yes, we've delayed the space by a day because it was really horrendous yesterday. But it's no point not doing the space because we've convicted and we've promised that we're going to do that. So regardless of how I feel or we feel as individuals, we have to turn up and show the conviction, and hopefully that then reflects good on us as individuals and the project, and we get a bit more of a trust with the community, and it's what we're trying to do, right? But there's loads of challenges, but I think without challenges, it won't be fun either. And I don't know what your views are, JS and John, but for me, all these challenges, especially the stuff you saw, John, last week with your Twitter space, your Twitter disappearing and stuff, that fighting from that position and coming back again and getting your Twitter back, and then all the bits we had with some of the wallets being drained and stuff, and seeing your chart getting stronger and stronger, holding the floor, seeing all-time highs on a consistent basis, is really, I think, the excitement and what keeps us hooked. I think that's the drug. I don't know what both of your views are on that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just to even, with Suncat, sort of the come up of, the second CTO and then your ex last week and Zappa with you guys, the wallet trainer. We had a similar situation, I believe a couple months back, where there was a project, I think, sold 25,000 dollars worth of T-Bull, and it was from the wallet drainer. And I'm sure everyone here is aware of sort of the other token that is the Trombull, and sort of the battle that we've been having for the past couple months. And I think you know with through that adversity, I think we've, as a community, we've certainly have become stronger, and knowing what we're fighting for, right? Obviously, with other chains, such as Ethereum with Narrow, and I'm sure Solana has its battle of copycat coins, and trying to really take a lot of the, I don't want to say juice, but the power away from the people, right? Like, we've talked about how expensive it can be to run projects. And fortunately for us, we have a marketing wallet, we have very generous whales, but it's also a situation where, we don't have a bundled supply. We don't have a large portion of the supply. We don't have any team supply, right? So I think with that also comes its own struggles. But I think, on the flip side, with those struggles, going through all that adversity, it really, in my opinion, I think it's going to make it that much sweeter when Tron has its moments, and when we're having these conversations. Right now, obviously, you know, it's only a couple dozen people, but I am so confident that here in the next couple weeks, next couple months, we're going to have hundreds of people, in these spaces talking about, how they missed out on this, Tron meme run. So, I really agree that, this sort of like building period, and this struggle period, if you want to call it that, I think it'll really be worthwhile for us, here in the future.
Sorry, guys, I'm going to jump in again. Am I the only one who can't hear John? Is John not speaking right now?
Not speaking.
Okay,
I know it's
good.
a surprise.
Good. Sorry, because your mic was doing that thing on my screen. Right. Yeah. So look, I think if I lead into the final question for the day, and then we'll round it up. Um, it's really what JS you just said, right? Which is we firmly believe that the Tron ecosystem will have its turn, and we based on some of the signs, it's not very far away now. I just want to know from both of you, firstly, why do you think that is the case? And secondly, what key factors do you think will help grow the Tron ecosystem a lot more in this bull cycle? So what do you think's lacking? And I know we've had a few discussions previously, but more importantly, what are you noticing from your perspective as to why we think Tron meme ecosystem is going to have a huge cycle in this bull run?
Sorry, JS, I got to do it again. I also am gonna have to jump off right at the hour. So, yeah, I think what's been really interesting, I think the community is starting to realize this too. It's, the expectations are starting to be tempered based on what the ecosystem is going to do. And honestly, I've been quite impressed with, and I hate always bringing up Justin, but the sad or maybe positive truth is that he's kind of the driver of the ecosystem. But I've seen some pretty interesting engagement. Like you could tell he's trying to bring attention. I saw him interacting quite a bit with Chainlink, um with their newest announcement, and I think that is a big thing. I know CoinMarketCap just also posted an article about where most of USDT is being held, and it's like, I mean, it's like 10 to 1 on the Tron ecosystem. And I think that's those type of like just like baseline, very base level use cases are the reason I have a ton of hope. I really do think it's just, a couple things. I think it was the sleeping giant last run. It didn't run, and I think people are all, waiting. They're like, okay, it's just a matter of time. So that's what I'm hoping in. And yeah, guys, I think the three of us, like, the fact that we've weathered so many storms and the fact that our communities are still so strong, I like, if at least for me, and this is my encouragement to all my investors is just hold on. Like, just our time will shine. People will see that we are the ones that are really in the trenches. I know there's some other great projects on here too, that are